Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Live from the nation's capital, we are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism. What is the power of liberation? First to the Republican, and then to the socialists. I'm yours truly, the exceptional one, Kim McClinton. Yes, Washington, D.C. is alit tonight. Although we have military forces already in Syria, there's widespread concern that we might be exacting due diligence upon Bashar al-Assad in the Syrian nation for the use of chemical weapons on the innocent. Listen, you are live and you are listening to us on SHR Media. You're also listening to us via Ustream and live stream. And in addition to that, you have the great joy of listening to us through Red Nation Rising at 2 a.m. on the Liberty Channel. This is New Day Black and Red. And let's get ready to rock and roll with none other than the great professor himself, Dr. Michael Jones, who is at the helm this evening. Still recovering from his illness, so bear with him. And his peon-in-chief, Ken McClinton. Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, apparently there is much ado about warfare in this particular country. There are many who are concerned this particular night, didn't see it coming. Although we talked about that on Tuesday night on the Exceptional Conservative Show with Janice Hall, the J Hall World Report. Remember, we spoke about that. And quite frankly, there are those right now who believe that there is about to be a putting on like never before. And so I want you all to be very, very cognizant and aware that actions at the United Nations with UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's comments earlier today, followed up by comments by President Donald John Trump, 45th President of the United States, all indicate that within the next few hours, if not next few days, there will be a dramatic response from military personnel. And thus, for many of us, the exasperation of us being at war gets heightened even more. Good evening and welcome to the Exceptional Conservative Show. I beg your pardon. I got permission from Mrs. Biggs to wear this outfit tonight. It's been a very long week, been very academic kind of week as the Exceptional Conservative Network is beginning to grow in notoriety and also in strength. And so I wanted to take a vacay as I sit back this week and listen to my great friend, Dr. Michael Jones, who will be joining us in just a few. You know how we get this party started. Hello, Jason. Glad to have you here. Also, Claudia, you beautiful young woman. I am so glad you're working with Willie Lawson and keeping him straight in the mornings. And also, my beloved Mary Brockman, who is my bouncer. If you diss her, you diss me, and you will be dismissed from this chat room. I assure you that. So glad to have you here. I got Mary. I just want to let you know I got Mrs. Biggs' approval before I put this on. I know I was supposed to start wearing suits and ties every night since I'm chairman, but I got her. Is it okay with you, Mary? I just need to know that because life is not good when it's not okay with both of them. You know what I'm saying? It's just not good. Yes, Mary Brockman is a very powerful woman, and duly, she's like chairman emeritus. You know what I'm saying? So when we get her opinion, when she say yay, all is good in the world. All right, I need for you all to do me a great favor before we call the professor in chief. Uh, is it just me, or am I not hearing anything off the SHR feed? How could you not hear anything off? Um, we are live on New Day Black and Red. If you scroll down, okay, and I'm glad that you're in the exceptionalconservativeshow.com TECS tab. If you scroll down below the #1 ranked show, the Exceptional Conservative Show, on Thursdays, the show that's ranked number 18 right now, New Day Black and Red, 9:05, we are live on SHR Media. Tonight's show, some guy named al-Assad, Trump versus Putin for the sovereignty of the Middle East. There you go. And also we're going to talk about wives. So nothing on Spreaker. That's amazing. Simply amazing. Because I'm showing I'm on air, broadcasting live. Don't know what's going on. Got to continue, unfortunately. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we take off our hats. Please refresh. Maybe if we refresh, we'll get this together. All right. I need for you to put your right hand over your heart as we pledge allegiance. Take off your hats, ladies and gentlemen. Let the kids lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Here we go.
Right hand over heart, people.
Ready, begin. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I don't understand all of the technical difficulties that we may be having here, but hey, apparently they got the system. Okay. So nothing on Spreaker, nothing on SHR. Okay, don't understand why that's happening, but go to TECS, the Exceptional Conservative Show. .com, the exceptionalconservativeshow.com, and hopefully you'll be able to hear me via live stream. If you don't come to the TECS tab, you can come directly to the front page and listen to us live. And I don't hear any helicopters tonight, so they may have just knocked me completely off the air in in my region. Okay, so apparently that may be the case. Okay, I don't understand why there is no sound at Spreaker. Jason Miller, Ustream is out to on my end. Oh, okay, I don't understand why. Everything seems to be going well from here. All right. Just got to keep rolling. Just got to keep going. All right. Let us contact the professor, Dr. Michael Jones, and let's see what we can do. Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. I tell you. Good evening, Dr. Michael Jones, Professor Extraordinaire of the Underground Professor.us, the Underground Professor Show. Good evening. Glad to have you on the air on New Day Black and Red. You must be feeling great then.
Temperature's 100 degrees. My voice is going again. I've been coughing all day. I don't understand it. I just
Wow.
want to go out to pasture and get shot. We put horses down for less.
I know a woman who would like to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, but I won't give her the satisfaction.
You won't give her the satisfaction. Wow.
She'll see me when I go to hell. She'll see me then. Yeah.
God bless you, sir. Now you've been battling
whatever she couldn't get done to me here, she'll do there.
Yep. It's all about finishing. It's all about the finish.
Yes. Yeah, closure is what they call it. Closure.
Oh my goodness, Professor. God bless you, sir. We know that you're not feeling all that well. Are you resting comfortably? Or
I'm laying naked in my bed. If that helps.
Oh, great. That's a wonderful image.
Yeah. I figured you're going to make me talk. I might as well give you something back.
Wow. What an image.
Speaking of images, I feel kind of unimportant, seeing all these pictures of you walking around the halls of Congress with uppity ups and talking important things about terrorism, and here I am just coughing my lungs up in Texas. I don't feel like I'm in the same league with you anymore.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true. No, that is not true. I am constantly and will always forever be your peon in chief. Always. Always.
Yeah.
Just like Mary is your czarina, and my bouncer in chief, I will eternally be your peon, sitting at your feet, massaging them, and painting your toenails. You pick the color.
I'm more afraid of you eating them than painting them. Yeah.
So.
Yes, sir. I'm just washing my hands. Something got something on me. He has scratched himself so much that he is exuding some kind of gross stuff out of his hair.
Wow.
I found him under my bed, scratching his rear end on the bedpost.
Wow. And
yeah, bless his heart.
And which dog is this?
Hendon, my blind one, my blind pug.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He was, they've all been outside. He was crying, so I let him in to see what was crying.
Where's my Fav? Where's
my headset's here? Hold on a second.
Yeah, where's my Winston at?
Okay, get back to the phone. I can't. The headset just turned off. There we go. Now I can hear you.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
They've been doing that a lot. No one knows why. I talked to
it's a whole lot of
and Apple and T-Mobile, and they all say it's the other.
Wow. Where's Winston?
He's outside. Matter of fact, they were chasing something earlier. They had corralled it along the fence. I've had an invasion of possums and raccoons because of the weather, and so they've been going after it like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to interject here before we have to go to a commercial. Yeah. U.S. Naval ships are launching airstrikes into Syria to knock out the Sharia air base in Syria. Their intent is to devastate the air base, to eliminate any threats whatsoever. And so just want to give you that particular update at this particular point. This is not a new warfare. We have been in Syria for almost 2 years now.
Right.
You know,
Boots
first,
on the ground, even though Obama said we wouldn't do that.
exactly. First, it was merely for intelligence purposes and training troops.
Right.
Now we
That's
got
where Vietnam went to. Democrats always escalate. But
exactly.
my understanding is that when Trump is done bombing Syria, there'll be a thin red line for everybody to see.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about Syria tonight. Some guy named al-Assad, the Trump versus Putin fight for the sovereignty of the Middle East. And in addition to that, we're going to talk about Peter and his admonition to wives. Yes, we're going to go out there on a limb tonight.
Since it's Easter.
Oh my God. And I know the professor's just doing this to get me in trouble with Mrs. Biggs. I know it. I know it.
And Melanie. So Melanie in the loop too, because I know she's probably already steaming and we haven't even said anything.
Exactly. She's some militant. You know what I'm saying? We'll be right back. Oh my God, now I'm in trouble with Melanie. We'll be right back.
Now, Brownells, we know you may have only one shot to harvest that trophy, so we have thousands of accessories and replacement parts to improve your chances. We know how much you love to shoot, so our gunsmiths articles and videos will help you do more and get more out of your guns. We also value your hard work and money. That's why only Brownells backs up everything we sell with a 100% unconditional lifetime guarantee. Brownells, the world's largest supplier of firearm accessories and gunsmithing tools.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital. Men of faith. Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues. To the most influential Christian urban talk show, it's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
It's a love story like no other. From God's heart to yours. And for 30 years, it's been at the heart of every book, Bible, CD, gift, and resource from ChristianBook.com. Over 500,000 products, always at the very best value. ChristianBook.com. Everything Christian. Because it's our story, too.
With home values up and interest rates near all-time lows, you probably know that now is a great time to refinance, like the Johnsons, who saved $436 a month.
$436 a month?
It's simple. Just go to LendingTree.com, compare loan offers for free, and see how much you could save in just 5 minutes.
I thought you said the bank gave you the best rate.
Yeah.
LendingTree. When banks compete, you win.
I have to do everything myself.
Someone is sleeping on the couch tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to New Day Black and Red. The peon in chief, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton, at the very feet of the great messianic figure, better known as the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, out of Fort Worth, Dallas, or Dallas-Fort Worth. How will you wish to say?
Yeah, it's not Dallas Fort Worth. The only reason we put them first is because they have a harder time spelling.
God! Oh my God! I want you to know that was the professor, Doctor. I didn't say that. Oh my God! I'm going to get into so much trouble tonight.
You might as well just dive both feet in today because we're going to do it as long as I can last.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, much going on right now. The U.S. has unleashed hell upon Syria, or at least its air base, its military air base, to knock out the Air Force. Although maybe it would have been a good thing to do on Woody Island outside of China. Might be a good thing to do that too, you know. But nevertheless, right now, the U.S. military is unleashing Tomahawk missiles on the air base, military air base in Syria. And they're going to be unrelenting, at least as it's being reported by Fox News and others. Professor, what is all this stuff about? Why are we doing this?
What are we doing? I'm sorry, I just stepped in some pee. I'm so glad that I'm a humanitarian. Walked through the house without the lights on and walked right in a puddle.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
Talk
That's
about
why he left the room. I thought he was leaving the room to be nice to me, but no.
Nah.
Okay. What was the question again?
Okay, why are we doing this thing with the great nation of Syria? Why are we even there at this point?
Well, it's a good question. You know, one has to ask themselves what business we have being anywhere that we don't have a direct national interest in, right?
Yep.
And so I wonder what our business is here other than terrorism. And excuse me for making some noise. I got to take care of the wee-wee. And this is what it's fun living on a farm. Let me tell you, it's nothing but joy. So it's like there is that argument to be made, right? And a lot of people make it about what our interests are and what rights do we have and why are we doing it? The spread of terrorism needs to be fought on their soil, not ours. Mm-hmm. And so I'm okay with that. And it seems like the only thing that they pay attention to is violence. You know, this is what Nixon had to do to win the bribery pirates. He had to go over there and commit violence until they realized that we were willing to commit more violence on them than they were on us, and that they quit for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Doing that. And this is what we have to do again. Now, they, of course, recently, what was it, Assad gassed his own people again. Yeah. You know, like Saddam Hussein did. And we have, the world, this is funny, the world is always angry at America for getting involved in everything and always being in everybody's business, everybody how they have to live, etc., right? Yeah. But then something like this happens, and those very people are out protesting and saying, why the hell didn't America stop this before it happened? Why aren't we doing anything? Why weren't we over there already? Yeah. And so it's like our fault, that he did it. It's our fault that it happened. It's our fault that we haven't immediately gone by and punished and destroyed this entire country. So we can't win for losing on that politically. Yeah. But I don't know that we even need to consider that, to be honest. Who cares what they think? Yeah. Our interests are at stake here, and this is what our national security is that we are Americans and we believe in freedom and we believe in the right to life. And we do not believe that a government without due process has a right to go in there and take it. And this is what's happened with this, with Assad gassing the people. That is a horrendous death. Yeah. And when I went through survival school and stuff, they made us go through the gas chamber. And, they gave us a gas mask, taught us how to wear it, put it on, and make sure it was good, and we had it all fit right. And then as we're walking through the door into the gas chamber, they asked us a question. And they start yelling at us because they can't hear our answer. So they make us take the gas mask off, and then they push us into the gas chamber. So we get to experience it. Now, we're not going to be in any lethal danger, okay? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't any fun. Trust me, it wasn't any fun. Yeah. But it gave us an idea of what it's like. And this way, if we were ever in a war situation, like a Desert Storm and SHIELD, we were running around in M4 and rubber suits protecting us from chemical attack, and we had to have it with us, and all the times we had to wear it when the alarms and stuff went on, off detecting sense or whatever. It's not good. And I have been unplugged from most of the media for the last few days. Yeah. Because of my health and work and everything. I just have not been plugged in. But when I heard that he was gassing people. I avoided it because I'll tell you what, I just don't need to see that anymore. I've been in combat. I've seen death. It's, I'm not squeamish,
Yeah.
but crap, I cannot see these kids and women and innocent man gasping for breath and dying. And it's not that I'm squeamish or I can't see it because, it makes me ill or sick or anything. It's because I feel impotent, because all I want to do is go over there and, and start getting revenge for them from their government and from the fellow citizens that would do this to them. Because make no mistake, this is a civil war over there, and these are people fighting again. This is like a bunch of Yankees coming down and doing this to people in Georgia.
Yeah.
And before anybody says, "Oh, Professor, that could never happen," let me just suggest that a Yankee did come down and burn Georgia, and destroy it. And so there's history there. There's precedence. So it can happen, and it can happen again, because most people don't even know history. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what's going on here right now with Assad and his people. And gassing is just horrendous. And most of us, especially those in the military, find it a coward's way of doing things. We're not for it, even when our side does it to help us out. We don't want it, because it is not the way things are done.
Exactly.
And it's a reprehensible way to die. I tell you, it is very painful and scary, and it angers me.
Yeah.
And while we're doing missile strikes, that's fine. We got to start somewhere. I get it. But quite honestly, I was hoping for Trump to come out and say, you know what, there will be no two stones standing atop of one another in Syria.
Yeah, exactly. For those who are listening to us at home, we are right now attacking Syria, or at least their military base in Syria. The U.S. military has already launched 50 Tomahawk missiles. They're going for the utter destruction of the Syrian Air Force. We received word on that earlier today. I'm trying to keep you abreast as things are going on in our discussion. But some people are asking.
I'm sure there's more analysis, Ken, that can come out of that. But those Tomahawk missiles for the bean counters cost around $1 million a piece. And so what we just did was spend $50 million doing that. Mm-hmm. But taking out the Air Force will give us a lot of other options. Mm-hmm. And so it's not a bad idea. If what Trump was going to do is put troops on the ground, send in Marines and Army, then that's good. So as the Navy and the Air Force soften it up with Tomahawks, and then we'll bring in the special ops of the Air Force, the ABCCC, AWACS, and Compass Call, and RC-135s, the Rivet Joint guys, and bring them all in, and we'll get air superiority with this, and then we'll be able to have a ground control operation from the air, and it will save a lot of American lives if this is what Trump is planning to do. I have no special knowledge of any of this. I'm just saying that's what the battle of order usually is, and why we do this.
Now, also,
if you stick with the plan,
yeah, I'm so glad that you're here tonight, because you got greater expertise in military affairs than I ever will. But certainly, this had to be communicated with Vladimir Putin. Am I correct?
Well, I can't imagine. I'm of multiple minds here. First off, my instinct is to say, who the hell cares what people thinks? We're America, man. But you don't do stuff like this without coordinating, because it could be seen as an act of war. And Putin and his allies are not the same allies we have over in the Middle East.
Exactly.
And so I would imagine that the red phone was picked up and called. I don't know that they still use it. We had the red phone that Reagan used, the direct line, to avoid all that nuclear warfare. In this day and age, I more imagine that there's some cell phone that they have that they call and say, "Hey, Vlad, we're about to go and make nice with the Syrians and spend $50 million making improvements over there." And then Vlad White gets to decide what, their response is going to be. And hopefully it was one of, okay, do it. We know what you're going to do, and this is, you stick with this game plan, and we're okay with it, whatever. But if not, then of course Russia would have to react, and I'm sure whether it be pre-coordinated than to have them sitting there eating borscht and drinking vodka and finding out what are the Americans doing.
Yes. Now,
because then they'll have to respond, and this is a lot easier if we coordinate, and they can go out in front of their people and say what's going on.
Exactly. Now, you spoke earlier about the effect of the toxin on the body. Literally, it's like the lungs are collapsing upon themselves, and you die with every
right. You feel like you're drowning and burning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And people are asking, what gas are they talking about? Because the Russians took all the chemical weapons, right? That's what we were told by Obama.
Well, if you found some in a surplus store somewhere, Army Navy or something, right?
At the local Army Navy store. There we go.
I wouldn't be shocked if we find out this is some of the WMDs that Saddam got rid of.
Mm-hmm.
When he got his hand caught, and we had all that intel, and then Saddam started shoving things over in Iran and Egypt and Syria and crap, and got rid of it. And so there wasn't any there when we got there, and made Bush look like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And it could very well be some of that.
Exactly.
But who knows?
Exactly.
He has it. He's used it before in his own people, and I'd imagine that he still, kept some.
Oh yeah, that he's willing to use it again. Now,
right.
Also, want to alert everyone in terms of this. How does this feel? You're probably asking yourself. Well, the Washington Post actually asked some of the individuals who had been bombed in the Syrian town of Khan Sikhoun in Syria, and they announced that there were 3 conventional bombs that came first. It dropped from the belly of a Syrian Air Force jet, and they exploded, and they released huge black clouds into the air, which is normal for that type of conventional weapon. But a 4th bomb was dropped after that, and it made no sound on impact. The only indication that it had fallen was a cloud of white smoke. Now, you might be asking yourself, what exactly was in that white smoke? Well, this is... You ain't lying. The sulfur mustard gas is one of those. It often smells like garlic, onions, or mustard. It can be clear, yellow, or brown. When people come in contact with the vapor, it causes blistering of the skin, which is why you saw some of the pictures from Syria where they were actually blisters on the backs of people. This is the reason why. And mucous membranes on contact. The gas itself is not lethal, but direct exposure can result in scarring, respiratory problems, and even death from pneumonia. But that was not all that was in that white smoke. Sarin gas, which is 20 times more deadly than cyanide, was also in there, and it's a very powerful neurotoxin. It's colorless, tasteless, and it is exacting. It can evaporate and spread through the air, which is why you'll see individuals in the filming from Syria. They had their bowels and their bladders were emptying. They were blurred vision. Their chest was tightening. You saw the pictures of them clutching their chest because, like the professor said, there was a burning sensation that was going on, and they were burning virtually from the inside out.
Literally.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
The mucous membranes would be boiling,
Yeah.
Plus the blistering. That's another reason why Trump may be launching these tomahawks against the Air Force to keep them from being able to disperse anymore. That was something I was thinking about earlier. It's a good way to shut them down from being able to disperse it.
Exactly. The other gas that was in that white plume, if it wasn't bad enough that you had mustard gas and that you had sarin gas, if it wasn't that bad, they added also VX, which is another neurotoxin. Yeah.
They had all 3 in the same bomb?
All 3 in the same bomb. It is 10 times more toxic than sarin. It's an oily liquid. And you can tell by the professor's response here, my God, why? If you use the other two, why the third? If you were sending a message, Syria, you sent a very good one. Once in the air, people can be exposed through skin contact, eye contact, and inhalation. The poison looks like sarin, but there's a key difference. VX evaporates as slowly as motor oil. It can persist in the air for a long time under average weather,
Yeah, it does.
posing a long-term threat. That was why tonight 50 Tomahawk has been released into Syria because, and I'm just asking tonight, Professor, because I know that we got to go to a hard break in a moment, but sincerely, why did Obama lie and say that Russia had taken all the chemical weapons?
Well, remember, part of the Obama campaign was that he ended terrorism, that ISIS was a JV team, and that the world was a safer place because of his administration. When in fact we know that terrorism grew and expanded and became more prevalent. He was an aider and abetter of it and a traitor to his country. And this was all lies by him and his administration to get elected and stay in power so they could help further destroy the Constitution and our way of life, to make us weak to our enemies. And they're still doing that with the people that are still in government, sabotaging us with the bureaucracy and stuff.
Exactly.
And, I think that's why.
We're looking at a very...
And any of his people want to debate me on that, give you a call and you can set it up and moderate it.
Not a problem at all. I don't think any of them are calling in tonight because of the damage that's about to be unleashed on Syria in the next 24-hour period from U.S. military vessels for the U.S. Navy in the Mediterranean. They are unleashing hell tonight. And quite frankly, you don't need a red line tonight. The lines are being made red thanks to the U.S. Navy. We will be back right after these breaks. We are talking tonight with Dr. Michael Jones, my very good friend and a great military consult tonight. And in addition to that, I'm the peon-in-chief, Ken McClenton. So glad to have you here listening to the Exceptional Conservative, forgive me, New Day Black and Red on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Also coming up tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have the following inclusive. The Bloviating Zeppelin will be taking it from here and preparing to give you insight on what's going on at 11 p.m. Eastern Time on SHR Media. Once again, before we go to break, the U.S. has unleashed hell on Syria. We'll be right back with more of the best. Right after.
These ex-CIA, so they have a lot of good stuff.
Oh my God! Yes, they do. They are unleashing it tonight.
Are we on the air?
No, yeah. What? I gotta go to a break. Gotta go to break. If you can wait just 3 minutes, I'll be right back. I'm Ken McClenton, chairman of the Exceptional Conservative Network. Never has the cry for economic liberty been more resounding in urban America than on Election Day 2016. It's the economy. All real change begins with the American entrepreneur. Socialism did not work. Progressivism stole the wealth of individuals and families. You voted for something different. Real change. But what does real change look and sound like? It looks like Las Vegas, and it sounds like Freedom Fest 10. Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds, is the popular liberty-minded conference at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas from July 19th to the 22nd. Hear the voices of the urban freedom movement. Deneen Borelli, Larry Elder, Gina Lofton, Helen Riley, Juan Pablo Arande, and Zayad Abdelnour. Share ideas with powerful liberty movement figures like Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Anthony Scaramucci, Jennifer Grossman, Naomi Brockwell, Denise D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Peter Schiff, and our keynote speaker this year, William Shatner. Your money, your liberty, your freedom, your city. Come for the real and return with the change. Register now at Freedom Fest for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all caps code TECN. We'll see you there. Freedom Fest 10.
Hello, this is Leslie and Sophie with The Real Clear Israel. Join me every Sunday morning at 10:05 Eastern Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network, where we'll be discussing Israel with guests from Israel and around the world.
That's The Real Clear Israel, 10:05, Sunday, on the Exceptional Conservative Network.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, coming soon to Ossicles near you. Excelsior. The bloviating Zeppelin
will be up at 11 p.m. Eastern Time this evening on SHR Media. SHR Media, I ask that you tune in tonight and continue coverage of our attack on Syria in a international retaliation, perchance. Well, being led by, firstly, someone who's ahead of the game. That would be Donald Trump, Commander-in-Chief of the United States military. Over 60 missiles have been reportedly shot from the USS Porter and the USS Ross into Syria, attempting to destroy the airbase in Sharia. I believe it's the proper pronunciation of the word in Syria. The airbase there, they're attempting to literally annihilate the Syrian Air Force. And as we explained to you earlier, the reason for the annihilation of the Syrian Air Force is because of what happened just a few days ago, over the weekend, in fact, where sarin, VX, and mustard gas was released upon persons within a Syrian city, a Syrian town, in fact, killing over 86 people, and there are more being reported dying as it goes on. The VX gas itself is a long-term gas. It's very difficult to degrade over a long period of time, and it causes continual mutilation of the body and causes individuals to believe that they're drowning and burning from what's inside. And more are being reported dead as we go along. The President of the United States did not appreciate that. I want to play a clip before we go back to the Professor, Dr. Michael Jones. This is the President of the United States earlier today talking about what happened in Syria.
We have been treated unfairly and have made terrible deals, trade deals with China for many, many years. So that's one of the things we're going to be talking about. The other thing, of course, is going to be North Korea. And somehow they will fix. They really do fix. I think what Assad did is terrible. I think what happened in Syria is one of the truly egregious crimes. And it shouldn't have happened.
Truly one of the most outrageous crimes is what Donald Trump says, and it should not have happened. And there is retaliation tonight. We got a clue that this was going to happen earlier today when we got these comments from Secretary of State Rex Tillerson.
Well, obviously, the events
that have occurred in Syria with the chemical weapons attack here in the past day have just, I think, horrified all of us and brought to the front pages and to our television screens as well the tragedy that is part of the Syrian conflict. There is no doubt in our minds, and the information we have supports that Syria, the Syrian regime, and the leadership of President Bashar al-Assad are responsible for this attack. And I think further, it is very important that the Russian government consider carefully their continued support to the Assad regime.
Rex Tillerson, very strong. First time we've heard from a Secretary of State a veiled threat to Russia that they better get out of the way because they were coming for Bashar al-Assad, who is the leader of the Syrian nation, considered a tyrant, and the one who called for the gassing of his own people. Tonight, the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones. This is New Day Black and Red. Professor, how long should we expect the President of the United States and others to continue this assault on Syria? Is this just a one-night kind of thing, or is this, are we in to stay?
Well, if Obama was doing it, I tell you, my instinct would be this was for show and it'd be overnight, and we get all the leads on the news programs, and then he'd be done because that's what progressives do. They feel good about what they did, even if they don't do anything. The fact that this is happening now, before the weekend, shows you that this isn't being done just to get the news cycle in, or to avoid a bad news cycle. Like all the document dumps we always see on Fridays by government, left and right. They don't want anything to be done, that they dump everything on a Friday night. So I don't think this is being done just for spin.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads me to think that while I have no privileged information on this, it makes me think that maybe Trump and the generals actually got a plan, and they're going to be doing some butt hurting on Assad and his people.
Mm-hmm.
The problem you face with this is if you go in and you kill Assad and commit to regime change, which is something I'm not always altogether in favor of because it almost always backfires on America. What happens to that vacuum? And what happens, in that region, and who fills that vacuum? And very likely it will be ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
And so we run a risk, especially if we pull out prematurely. Trump recognized this during the presidential race. He kept pointing it out to people that two things that were very important. One, we need to quit telling the enemy what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. And we left prematurely, causing even more problems. And the progressives, the left in our country, the Democrats, have a very long track history of doing this. I mean, look at what happened in Vietnam and Cambodia and everything, killing fields of Cambodia when we pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
And turned our back on our allies there. In South Vietnam, look what happened to them. Look what happened to Cambodia. Look what happened to Laos. So, and then look what happened when we pulled out of Iraq and elsewhere around that region. So there is a risk if we don't see this through, and I hope that Trump is going to see it through, but I don't have any special knowledge on that. But I would like to think that we're going to do more than drop some bombs in the air on them, because that won't solve anything.
Exactly. Now, there was criticism from the Pentagon of the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, for being so steadfast in the conversation of regime change, that they were coming after Bashar al-Assad. They were coming after him, and that they would not rest
until
he was no longer leading the nation.
Well, I'm really against regime change in most cases, but when you got someone gassing their own people, it's time for an election.
An election by force.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. We just remove them, and then and then we got to get out of the way and let them choose who's going to be the leader. But if we create a vacuum, we've got to make sure that we don't allow worse to occur. A bigger monster to fill the shoes. So we've got to stay involved. The regime change means that we're going to be there 10 years.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that we're going to be pulling out in a weekend, or two, and then go, see some purple fingers and then say, "Oh, look at us, we're fantastic," and then leave. This means that we're dedicating at least a decade to Syria, and that we're going to have to educate them and get them involved in their, government choices and help them. Look what happened in Iraq. They all voted, but then what did they do? They all voted Sharia and to put even bigger monsters than Saddam. I mean, Saddam Hussein is looking pretty good right now.
Looks like a moderate. But that was also one of the things that was related to George W. Bush, President George W. Bush, former president at least, and many of his detail at that time period, that really you don't want to do this because Saddam is the best thing that's holding Iraq together and keeping Iran at bay. We also heard from Gaddafi to the Obama administration, you don't want to do regime change because I'm holding this together, and what comes after me is far worse than I am. In each case,
right. Egypt,
yeah,
also,
with Mubarak,
and every time we failed because we pulled out.
Now
we haven't seen it through.
Exactly, and so what happened? We're saying 10 years. That's beyond the Trump administration. We've been in Afghanistan since right after the after 9/11, in fact, and we shut down that war for like 6 or 7 months, and then we went right back at Afghanistan after terrorist actions. We're still in Iraq. We are fighting in northwest Pakistan. We are fighting in Libya. Still with special forces there. We have the war on ISIS. I refuse to use the other term that they like to use. We're fighting Boko Haram in the Congo and other areas of Western Africa. We are in Syria. You're dealing with a NATO nation like Turkey that's turning its back on the U.S. in some cases and then helping us out in others. Syria is aligned with not only Russia but also Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon. So you got a lot of stuff going on. How do we pick the winner here? Who are we fighting, Professor?
I don't know, and I don't know how to pick a winner over there. Look, they've been having problems since Christ was over there, and they haven't fixed anything since. And I don't see that they ever will. Without just destroying most of them. Sadly, I don't see any other way to fix things over there. And they're a violent culture, and life has very little meaning to them.
Wow.
And, women are property, and most men are slaves or servants, to others. There's a huge pecking order, and so life has very little value. And they're a culture of death. They're not a culture of life like we are. And so we're over here trying to fix things with our values, and we don't understand their values. In fact, most Americans, I think, would refuse to believe that their values are their values. People like you and I, we accept when they say they want to kill us. But, most Americans, all the proletards, all the left, and a lot of moderates and people on the right even, don't want to believe that. And so they don't. And this causes us a problem because they don't realize just how bad this is and how deep and systemic it is in their culture. And I don't have any names to give you about who would be a good idea to put over there. And whatever it is, we need to be very careful that we don't just set up a puppet for our regime or for Vlad and And we certainly don't want somebody that's so powerful and strong that he becomes the next, tyrant of that area.
Yeah,
And we have to go back and do it again.
exactly. And quite frankly, one of the missing countries that's not being talked about tonight, but is pertinent to what's happening in Syria, is China, which is, I think, China earlier today landed a military jet onto Woody Island in China, on the little islands that they created in the South China Sea. And tonight, Donald Trump is releasing hell on Syria. Is this a message not to Russia but to China?
Well, it could be. I hadn't thought about that. China is involved in stuff over in the Middle East pretty heavily with investments and trade and the securing of oil and stuff for their country. And so they are just as active as America and Russia is at messing with regimes over there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they are a player. Truly, they are a player in this, and they need to be considered. We talked about notifying Vladimir Putin. I wouldn't be surprised if China's leader wasn't brought up to speak to over it. Yeah.
Wow. Tonight, history is being made. President Donald Trump, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. military forces, has released hell upon the Sharat Air Force Base in Syria. We're looking at over 70 missile launches, Tomahawk missiles, and reported to be anywhere between $1.1 to $1.5 million per missile. So great investment. I'm investing tomorrow in Tomahawk.
Well, they don't make any more of those either, by the way. Saddam. Obama shut that down. So we're not replacing these Tomahawks. So when we use them, they're done. They're gone.
Wow. I want to ask you, how come we're not just going to use a bunker buster and just call it a day? Just bam.
Well, I did a whole show on the Muslims.
Yep. We both got in trouble for that.
Perfect place. Yeah, we did. Thank you, Agador.
Thank you.
For baiting me.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, but this wouldn't be a bad time to maybe look at that theory a little closer. Game theory. Here was one thing though. After Trump was inaugurated, you remember we lost some SEALs or whatever. I can't remember who they were now. Because there was an operation that was put in play under Obama. Yes. And they were waiting for the right moon for lighting so they could sneak in and use their high-tech advantage, and some servicemen got killed. And of course, the left went crazy and blamed it all on Trump, who just simply allowed it to happen. And we were wondering if Trump would be gun shy because of the left and how they reacted to this and blamed them. And how would he, use the military in the future? Well, I think that answer has been given.
Yeah.
That once again, Trump doesn't really care what the left says about him or the media, and he's doing the right thing. Now let's just hope it works the right way.
Exactly. Right now, President Donald Trump is addressing America from Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, Florida, after having met this afternoon with the president of China, Xi Jinping, and probably having phone conversations with Vladimir Putin earlier today. The reason why he needs to talk to both of those big players in the Middle East is because of what's happening in Syria tonight. Some 70 Tomahawk missiles have been used tonight on an air base in the great country of Syria, dating all the way back to the time of the Bible. Syria has been around and quite frankly don't plan on going anywhere, yet they will export as many of their family members and friends as far away as they possibly can. Why? To avoid being gassed. Now, Dave Milner in the chat room says that was a bold-faced lie, that this is not a reason why we're going into Syria. That the reporting of the gassing is a lie. And so he's going to be talking about that on EDL this weekend, English Defense League. And I hope Dave will put some information out there so that we can report how you can listen
Wait,
to.
wait. Did I follow you right? He said that the gassing didn't happen?
Yep, he said it was a lie. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So we're this is what he
Who's
said.
making the lie, though?
That's a good question. He says, in my opinion, and we love the unpleasant blind guy, so he must know something. In my opinion, the story about the gas attack is either distorted or an outright lie. We'll get more into this Sunday on EDL Radio. So, Dave, please let us know. There it is. He says, whoopee, Trump is continuing a policy we should have never started. Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I believe it's on Blog Talk Radio, EDL. Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy, will be talking about that. And all we can do tonight is report the fact that we're there. We were there before this, and a lot of people are going to say, hey, why are we getting into Syria? No, we were there 2 years ago with Obama, the president who created the most wars in the history of mankind, at least of the presidencies.
Well, you know, Ken, the Middle East has a long history of doing things like sending out videos that we Americans bombed milk factories, or, you know, when it's really a munitions dump. But, you know, the willing idiots of the media and the left run with these videos, you know, and it shows women and children being blown up, you know, like it was a hospital or a nursery or a company that made milk for babies. And you know, and then they would blame us for it.
Yeah.
They have a long history of sending out fake videos and stuff from there. Now, I haven't seen any of the videos on, you know, on this, so I don't know if they're real or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be hard to fake being gassed.
Yeah.
And you know, and be on the video. Now, where those videos were made, when they were made, and where they were actually gassed or done, that's, you know, who knows? You can't really figure that all out from a video unless you're an analyst for the NSA. But I'm willing right now to take it on a prima facie basis that the world is reacting to this, and so maybe there's something there. And you know, like we pointed out, you've got to be very careful as a country, as America, because the whole world's looking at us to lead on this. But it could be a quagmire very quick. And when I say quagmire, I don't mean giggity.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't mean the simplicity of Vietnam. When we come back,
no.
When we come back, we want to talk about what it means to be a quagmire. And at the very end of our program tonight, we're going to try to alleviate some of your tenacious anxieties about what's happening across the world. We want to get into a conversation about Peter admonishing the wives. Yes, I'm going to get in trouble tonight thanks to my very good friend, Dr. Michael Jones. We'll be right back right after this 5-minute break with more of the guests in Urban Conservative Talk. Please stay there. We'll be right back. And also, I have to announce, because I've been under some litigation, I have to announce that the next clip that you hear requires you to go outside and smoke a little something to relax. Get your cigarettes together, gentlemen. It's Melanie Collette. Also, Brittany Morgan, Dallas fame. Also, Politichicks. She will be on tomorrow at 10 a.m. 10:05 a.m. in fact, on SHR and Ustream on TECN. TECN.biz. Yeah, the link there. You can just click on that tab. They will be on tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on Money Talk with Melanie. We'll be right back.
Money Talk with Melanie is a lively discussion of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Join your business diva, Melanie Collette, as I speak with respected entrepreneurs, CEOs, authors, and politicians as we explore today's fiscal environment. Money Talk with Melanie airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Remember, this is important because it's your money. Talk with Melanie is
I know you know someone that has a negative vibe. And if you're trying to make it the only
Time for an unpleasant blind guy, conservative bite. One of the great things about having your own show is that you can sometimes indulge yourself. But it's no good if it doesn't do the people who listen to you any good, because then you just wind up looking like a great big tool. Now, there are some who would say that that's exactly what I am, but I'm not concentrating on them this time. Back during the holidays, an acquaintance of mine indicated to me that the skills that I have to do this program are, to his mind, non-existent. This individual, by the way, has never liked the fact that the Unpleasant Blind Guy was picked up first by High Plains Pundit and then by SHR Media. The person I'm talking about is one of those people that has to bring himself up by trying to knock others down. And he chose to attack me based on my skill level, indicating to me that I had no right to take pride in the skills of political and social analysis that I have developed over the past 48 plus years, implying that such pride made me a snob. Now, I did set him straight, but it got me to thinking. I've heard many times from people who listen to my program and others that some of those around them who aren't too happy with the fact that they've taken a stand in the current conflict between good and evil in this world have chosen to attack them based on their skills, telling them that there's nothing special about them, what they do, or the goals they want to achieve. Well, people, here's the truth. Our skills are gifts from God. Some of us have many, some of us have a few, some only one, but everyone has one. We can use these skills to help define who we are and how we interface with the rest of the world. And we can use them to achieve worthy goals. And here's one other part that the detractors always seem to forget. God made each of us different from everyone else as individuals. When you combine our God-given skills with the singularities that are ourselves, you have something very unique. A good example would be a skilled NFL quarterback. His skills set him apart from other quarterbacks. He uses those skills to achieve goals and succeed. Those skills have not only been given him by God, but he has enhanced those skills with plenty of hard work. So his skills have set him apart. There is no reason for that NFL quarterback to be ashamed of his skills and not take pride in them, just as there is no shame in you taking pride in the skills that God has given you. Never let anyone call you a snob because you believe that your skills set you apart from others, because they do. Your skills, combined with the person you are, make you unrepeatable. So don't let some knick-knack, tallywhack, throw themselves a bone buzzkill diminish you by trying to convince you that you should not take pride in the gifts that God has given you and the gifts that you have worked hard over time to refine. As long as you remember that your skills set you apart from others, but not above them, you can use what God has given you and move on to personal success, regardless of your goals. This has been an unpleasant blind guy, conservative fight.
The greatest advertisers in all of the world are on the Exceptional Conservative Show and the Exceptional Conservative Network. Buy their products and share their good news. Go to theexceptionalconservativeshow.com right now. We'll be back after these messages.
Hi, my name is Willie Lawson of The Willie Lawson Show here on the Exceptional Conservative Network. We have a brand new show on at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. We are bound to make you think. We are bound to make you see things differently. we are bound to push you into action for not only your community, but your country. That's the Willie Lawson Show on the Exceptional Conservative Network, 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. See you there.
Welcome back to New Day Black and Red, live from the nation's capital. We are certainly not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republicans and the Socialists. I am sitting at the master's feet this evening, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor from undergroundprofessor.us. I am merely a peon in his stead. I am immensely enwrapped by his shadow, and I stand. I am the brightness in his shadow. I'm so glad that you tuned in this evening. Mary Brock was in the Euro Pacific Bank Limited TECN chat room, holding down the fort. She is the czarina for the professor and my bouncer in chief. She is joined this particular evening by the bloviating Zeppelin, who will be on right after this program on shrmedia.com. shrmedia.com. Stay tuned to BZ's comments on what's happening in Syria tonight. Claudia Cheek, we love you. Jason Miller, thank you so much for being here and for your tidbits as you were sending them to me privately. Also, we love you, Melanie Collette. So glad to have you here. The chat room is filling up, and we want you to be a part of it. Come to the TECS tab of the exceptionalconservativeshow.com so you can get all the information, all the good stuff about what's going on right now. The President of the United States finished a little while ago his address to the American citizens regarding Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, Florida. And his comments, the fact that we have launched airstrikes into Syria, some 70 Tomahawk missiles valued at $1.4 million, but who's quibbling over dollars and cents here, right? Have been unleashed upon the people of Syria, or at least their air base, Sharat Air Base, in Syria, with the intent by...
That air base is like our... This is something that you may not know. It's just like that air base is a very critical place. It's like their NSA, their CIA, their FBI. You know how we have all that junk in Maryland and spread out everywhere? Well, that is kind of like all like there, like King Fahd Air Base was. It's the central hub of everything Syria, and so all the command control is right there. So it's not just like an air base, you know. And Americans, we hear the stuff, and that's what we tend to think. You know, it's just another air base like Davis-Monthan or Andrews or whatever. That's their Andrews Air Force Base, but it's also got all the other components stuck with it too. So it's an important key element in their communication control.
Okay, what we're getting tonight are reports about the launching, the airstrikes. The USS Ross is one of the ships that was used. There is another ship as well as they're launching from the Mediterranean onto Syria. You have to also understand that Israel is to the south. Hezbollah in Lebanon is also to the south. Quite frankly, I'm not expecting this to go much longer, but if it is to go much longer, we are in the pit of hell, if forgive the French, regarding where all of the battles are taking place, and there is no winner here in terms of the battles. You have Assad, who is facing down his people. There are 5 other civil wars going on, not including ISIS and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. They're all in a WWE cage battle in Syria, and now we've jumped into it. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say earlier, was that there is no way to pick a winner in this. This is just chaos, and it's a minefield fraught with danger. You know, you couldn't do nothing if the gassing is true, which I take on faith that it is, but if Ag says it isn't, then that makes me wonder, because I trust Ag. And so instinctually now I don't know what's going on, but it's a mess. It has been forever, and it's it's very convoluted over there. There's no easy, there's no way of telling good guys from bad guys. There's no, there's just no way. And on top of all that, I have breaking news that the USS Ross is actually transgendering into the USS Ruth, and wants you to respect its life changes as it goes through this.
So this is its coming out party, the USS Ruth, the
Yes.
coming out party. I hear that.
Hello, Navy.
Yeah, go Navy. From a Air Forceman, go Navy. Apparently, we're also getting word that Admiral Caitlin Jenner will be addressing from on board. Not undressing.
Rear Admiral.
Yeah, mostly rear, somewhat Admiral. Oh my God!
When she says "go act," it means a whole new thing.
I'm quite certain there's some Navy personnel pretty offended at this particular juncture, but who's to say? So
Probably more. I'm saying, how the heck did he know all that?
Apparently, Dave Milner in the chat room is telling us that it's the Muslim Brotherhood versus Assad. Assad being an Alawite Muslim, and the MB almost exclusively Sunni Muslim, and that's been one of the big problems in terms of the Sunni versus Shiite. It was earlier this week as well that the administration discussed through the State Department building relationships with the Shiites in antithesis to the Sunnis, who many of the Sunnis happen to be the Muslim Brotherhood, jihadis kind of thing. Well, it could there be, if I just want to go down this road with you for a moment, Professor, and thank God that you're with us tonight, because you've overcome you're overcoming your illness, and God's going to continue to bless you accordingly. But if perchance Rex Tillerson's remarks earlier this week coincide with tonight's bombing, was the U.S. already planning a regime change, and is this a good excuse to proceed with the regime change in the midst of having Xi Jinping at your home in Palm Beach, Florida, and being on the phone with Vladimir Putin, advising that you're going to take a go at this, especially since there's reporting out of the Pentagon that 2 days ago planning started for this particular bombing? Is this merely an excuse for regime change in Syria?
When Obama was still in office, there was talk about doing this, that he should be doing regime change over there, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
That came up. I don't remember much about it, because it was Obama, and I didn't really, put much stock in that he had the cojones to do what was necessary over there. But again, I don't like when America gets involved in regime change, because we have always paid the price for it every time. You cannot look and find me one place that we have been involved in regime change, and you can say, well, that worked out good for America. But, so, I would imagine this was in play, and this is something that the military has already war gamed. At some point, somebody said from the Joint Chiefs, we need a war game regime change in this country, that country, the other country. And I'm pretty sure we probably have one for Russia and China too. This is what we do in intelligence. We war game and come up with solutions, and then when some crackhead politician says, I want X, we can go look at the file and pull it out and give it to them and say, here's the plan.
Now investigate. Invest with this particular query. There are some, they call them neocons, but there are some GOPers who would say to us tonight, by asking that question, that we don't show allegiance to the Republican Party, we don't show allegiance to the President of the United States, by asking that simple question: was this a go before the gas matter came up. Were we going to do a regime change? And is this the excuse? Am I right about, or am I off base in anywhere in that particular area?
Well, I can't speak for you,
Yeah.
but I will point this out to all the people who think that I'm being disloyal. Is that my oath was not to the president.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't to Congress. It was to the Constitution, and it was, to the citizens of this country and their rights and freedoms and liberties. And it wasn't to a party or a president, okay, or a Congress. So I'm not being disloyal to them if I step forward and articulate, when they're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's a bad question to be asked, who planned this? How did this get started? This is awful fast to come up with if they're getting gassed and you guys walk out, and 24 hours later have a complete regime change plan and in place and troops already deployed to do it. That speaks of foreknowledge.
Yeah.
And that always makes me nervous. If our politicians knew that something was going to happen over there and they started moving assets to prevent it, and they just didn't do it fast enough, and then it happened. That won't go well either.
Exactly.
And the way the climate is up in Washington, everything is being investigated. So I'm sure this will be investigated too, to see what Trump knew and when did he know it, and should he be impeached? Because everything else is going like that.
Well, this,
who knows?
I mean, because you mentioned earlier, this does take. I mean, this is not pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Vlad, what's up? Yeah, how's the vodka? Yeah, by the way, we plan on bombing tomorrow. Is that all right with you?" This takes a great deal of logistics and coordination. Having worked at the Pentagon myself, I know that this takes some planning.
Yeah.
And I think, first and foremost, my opinion, and I'll share it with the world. It's okay if neocons or others criticize me, but I didn't want us to be in Syria in the first place, especially when we're leaning on the intellect and wisdom of Senator John McCain, who was able to pick the ISIS group to support out of all the opportunities we had in Syria, and then backtracks later on and says, "Oh, I didn't really mean to pick them." Literally, there are too many moving pieces there to support any one group. Then you have the Kurds in Iraq, who are at odds with the Syrians and the Turks. The Turks who are using the highway system to shuffle oil from ISIS out of Iraq into their own coffers, and then they're acting as the gateway between Syria and Europe in terms of the immigrant or the refugee invasion. Literally, there's a lot of stuff going on in those moving pieces. And are we about to invest in another Afghanistan? Is this what we're looking at?
That's what I'm afraid it is. And look, the French and the Russians didn't do too well over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not since Afghanistan changed from Christian to Muslim has there been, a moment's peace for them. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you all that I had an opportunity to go on Capitol Hill this week for a policy briefing regarding the London Center for Policy Research. Happened to be there with Dr. Walid Fares, and as well Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, retired captain.
I didn't mean to cough there.
I'm making a point, as a peon. You tell me I have to make a point, so I'm trying to make a point here, Professor.
Did I not give you full credit for that earlier in the show?
Yes, you.
Okay. Still, you had to work it into like another commercial.
I was trying to give a little more information about why this is such an important conversation to be holding tonight. I am not name dropping, and listen, Mary Brockman will tell you that I don't name drop. Thank you very much, sir.
No. What I want to know is how in the world those pictures came out, because you had these Brits that were like whiter than fish, and you were standing next to them, and I thought, how did that poor camera get the contrast figured out?
Listen, many days I can. The whole thing stinks worse than I imagined. Roseanne Barr's attempt armpit would if she were forced to run 100 yards in Singapore in the hot season. There you go. See, Mary Brockman says the Tsarina, my bouncer in chief, she says in the Euro Pacific Bank Limited TECN chat room that I not much drop names. I'm not a name dropper. I'm merely trying to give some background to what may be happening since Peter O'Brien also, yeah, you know, I'm not name dropping that I had some time with Captain Peter O'Brien. Great conversation with him. Spent a few moments talking with Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer about NATO 2.0 and Dr. Walid Fares, who is a renowned Middle Eastern counselor and commentator. I'm not name dropping here. I just merely want to state that I had some discussion with them during a time period where I met personally with Congressman Steve King this week, and had yeah. See, I'm not trying to name drop here at all. Not at all. See, that's not my purview.
That was my bad.
There was conversation there at this event in which Brandy Bohannon from AC Nation News, the editor-in-chief, was present, and they were talking about NATO 2.0 and that it is important for us to depend on the alliance of the Arabs and their military to protect and guard themselves. And I'm just wondering tonight, are we asking any of them to help us in this fight with Syria?
I hope they are. I hope they're doing what Bush did, build a coalition and get some support and help and money for that, because the burden should not be ours alone. The rest of the world needs to come together and help on this.
Exactly. The same people who are telling me that he ran on repeal and replace are the same people who are telling us that it's okay to invade. Well, we're not invading, but my God, I mean,
that's what we're doing. We're trying to repeal and replace Assad.
Yeah. Gotta go. Melanie Collette asks, how are you going to name drop while talking about how you don't name drop? Professor!
Right, I didn't say that. I didn't put her up to that. The only name I had to drop was Peter. And you stole that from me. So.
Oh, my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, the President of the United States is leading the nation with airstrikes against Syria. If we weren't there already, and we have over 1,000 troops in Syria at this time period for training purposes and all that kind of stuff, we know that. That's how Vietnam started. But now we're in. We've dug in, and we are about regime change. That it was reported earlier that Rex Tillerson had overspoke, at least by the Pentagon. However, there has been nothing coming out of the State Department to say such, and there is no confirmation of that from President Donald Trump. As far as we know, the intent of this had been planned for a while, a actual regime change, likened unto the Iraqi prime minister who was knocked out of politics. What is his name, Professor? Because I can ask you one question.
That's his name. Only one I ever remember is the Iranian I'm a dinner jacket.
Now that was a regime change that Obama missed. That was the one that should have been done.
Yeah, that went well.
Yeah. Thank you for your red markers.
That's one Carter gave us. Thank you for giving birth to terrorism Houston Carter's the grandfather of terrorism, or godfather.
I want to switch over before the break, and I want you to talk with us about Peter, because it's nothing else that we need to talk about in terms of Syria. Besides the fact that it's about to become a Muslim vacuum, a Mohammedan vacuum, and
Yep. Yep, it will.
Saddam Hussein.
And Allah's going to be busy. He's going to have to start rounding up virgins, wholesale.
I mean, where do you get these virgins from? I mean, all the women I know have given up a little something for the cause. Where do you get these virgins?
They're all unionized hookers that have retired from Vegas.
As social workers, sexual workers is what I've been told.
Social workers. Yeah.
Sociable workers.
They get a new set of teeth, and they're sent in there to be virgins. Yeah.
Oh my God. Professor, why Peter? Why are we talking about Peter tonight? Admonishing wives.
Well, it's Lent,
mm-hmm.
and Easter's coming up, and Peter is the rock of the church. And you had said something, I can't remember now, not too long ago, and I thought about Peter again and thought, well, let's see how much trouble I can get you in this time.
Oh, don't you love doing that, Professor? I really appreciate it.
And especially since most of us get it wrong, what he was saying. We don't understand why he was saying what he was saying, and then we take it out of context, like he was telling women that they've got to be the property of their husbands and stuff. And so I thought it'd be fun to look at that and look at it from maybe just a little bit different perspective than we normally do.
Well, let's take a look at that. So, since we have Melanie in the chat room, and we are cognizant of the fact that she needs to be obedient.
Yeah. Even if she doesn't have a legitimate life by not having a man in it.
Exactly. Without a man, where's their life? You know what I'm saying? Really.
She's like those bags at the airport that just keep going around in circles. Around. No one can pick them up.
I'm so in trouble right here. I am just so in trouble at this point.
I can't even see the chat room. I just wish I could right now so I could nudge it. Because I don't have much voice. Can you read Peter 3?
Yes, I will read Peter.
Likewise, wives, be subject to your own husbands.
Yes.
That section.
1 Peter 3.
They go all the way through 6. I'll take the husbands from 7 on.
Okay, yeah, because as men we have greater responsibilities. But this is all women got to do. This is all that women got to do. 1 Peter 3 verse 1. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. In 1 Peter 3:2, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. 1 Peter 3:3, whose adorning, let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair, and of wearing of gold, or of putting on apparel, 1 Peter 3:4, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, and that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price. 1 Peter 3:5, for after this manner in the old time the holy women also, who trusted in God, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands. And then 1 Peter 3:6, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well, and are not afraid with any amazement. Professor, 137.
And I said, now all that, and then he looks over at the men and he says, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. Now, all the time you hear the chicks out there get upset why do men get this one little paragraph and the women get all that other stuff?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you look at what he's telling the men, he's saying that you need to honor your wives. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that they are the weaker of the two sexes, which up until America in the 60s, we all knew this and believed it.
Yeah.
Now we think women and men are equal on everything. And since they're not, we have to pretend they are in order to be politically correct and to fit into our society. But he's reminding them that they need their protection and their love.
Mm.
And that they are heirs into his heavenly kingdom together in a graceful life. And there's a huge admonition against the men in this paragraph. And that's the last sentence that basically says, you better live your life with your wives in such that they aren't sitting there with tears praying about you to God, because their tears will supersede your prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Peter's saying is that if they're sitting there crying about the way you're treating them, then that's what God's going to be paying attention to. He's not going to be paying attention to your prayers and what you're asking of him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's a huge thing here to us. And then you can go into, Peter 8, obtaining a blessing. But before we do that,
Mm-hmm.
the women, this is important. All the things that they're being told to do. And let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh my God! Ask me anything.
When Peter wrote this, do you think what he wrote was startling, revolutionary behavior to these people of his time? Because when he wrote 1 Peter, do you think that women didn't realize what their role was in society, and what a wife's duties were, and how her behavior should be? Do you, honestly, do we think that when Peter wrote this, women were going, holy crap, what is this guy's problem? He wants me to be subservient to my husband. He wants me to, not put on a whole bunch of jewelry and they wants me to, honor my man. Do they think that was earth-shattering to be, to tell women to behave?
No, no, not at all.
And I would tell you that no,
Mm-hmm.
that women knew very well their place in society back then. And it wasn't a good place, according to our values today. But it is what it is. And wishing that it was better doesn't make it so. So women knew that they had to be careful with their men already. But you go back a little further, and this is something that I rarely see preachers do. And that is to go back to where Peter is talking about the submission to authority and how to treat servants and how to watch your conduct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Peter 11, he says, beloved, I urge you, sojourners and exiles, to abstain from the passions of the flesh, which wage war against your soul, to keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God in the day of the visitation. Okay? God made these Jews holy people. Mm-hmm. And Christians are now the chosen of God too, Gentiles as well as Jews. Then he gets in there and he says, look, your conduct, the way people see how you act, is important. You need to act like a Christian. You need to act like you're a child of God. And then he gets in there about submission of authority. Mm-hmm. And says that, that for the Lord's sake, every human institution we need to, obey and to emperor as supreme. And that we need to follow God's rules, right?
Yes.
And that we're not living people who are free should not use their freedom as a cover up for evil, etc. Right? Okay, so what he's saying there is this is an admonition to Christians, because all people at this time had to swear Caesar was their Lord and God. Okay?
Yeah.
And they made this little prayer all the time. Well, the Jews actually had a waiver. They had gone up and they had said, you know what, we can't say that, but what we will do is intercede for Caesar's life in our prayers every day. When you go to church and you have that little section of the prayers to the people, you know, and you pray for your leaders and whatnot, that's where that tradition came from. The Jews used to do it, praying for the regents and the leaders and the Caesars and all that crap. Well, the Christians, the Romans couldn't really tell them apart from the Jews. So they got the exemption too. But when they started separating and causing problems and drawing distinctions amongst themselves, the Romans started seeing this and saying, wait a minute, they aren't Jews, so we're going to take this exemption from them. And what Peter is telling everybody is to be very, very careful, not to stand out, not to draw attention to yourselves, because we're in a very precarious time. They're hunting Christians. And by drawing these distinctions amongst ourselves, it will cause us to have problems. So he's saying submit to authority, pray for Caesar, like we promised to do, and be careful of your freedom. And just because you're free doesn't mean you have to go out there and scream at the top of your lungs that you're a Christian and that you can do what you want. Okay? Then he says to go and look at servants, and that servants should be subjects to your master, and that you should respect them. And not only to the good gentle ones, but also to the unjust ones. That your job is to be a good servant. Okay? And that it's a gracious thing, mindful of God, and you endure your sorrows while suffering unjustly, that God will notice and reward you later. And then he says, you know, what difference does it make if you get this credit with God, and then you go out and sin and get beaten for it against your master? Right? That doesn't help you at all. And but if you do good and suffer, then you endure this, then in the sight of God, he will bless you for it, right? And he says to follow Jesus as an example. And Jesus tells us, you know, that a husband should, you know, that should be married, you know, and a woman and church. You know what I'm talking about there, right?
Yep.
And his,
Yep.
Right. Okay. So, and not to revile and all that. Well, okay. What he is telling women is, you're living in a very precarious time. Christians are being hunted down, and a lot of women were coming to Christianity, and their husbands weren't.
Yeah.
And so what he's really telling them is, you are already in a bad situation.
Yeah.
And your husbands are not Christians, and they can do whatever they want to you. And, you know, in Rome, they could just divorce you and walk away, saying it 3 times and they were done. If you, and if they wanted to, they could beat you, and they could even kill you. And so Peter isn't telling these women that a chick's duty is to be a servant.
Yeah.
He's saying, your situation isn't good. Don't draw attention to yourselves. Be dutiful to your husband, be loving to your husband, and reflect the glory of God in your servitude to him. Let them see what a Christian is, and your actions may not only save your soul, but it will save the soul of your husband as well. And this is what he is telling wives, is that you have the power to save your husband's soul by being an obedient servant to your husband. And you will live, because if you don't do this, then you will draw attention to yourself, and it's very likely you will die for it. And Peter is saying there is no reason for you to go out and be a martyr. And at this time frame, that was a fad. Christians were thinking, you know what? I could get on the e-ticket to heaven by being a martyr.
Yeah.
And so they all ran around wanting to be martyrs. And he was trying to tell them very gently, this is not the good way to do this. Okay? And then he's telling husbands, whether you're Christian or not, that you need to treat your wives with respect and love and pay attention to them, and that your souls may be saved as well. And that if you're not treating your wives in a good manner, that their tears will block God hearing your prayers.
Wow.
and put your soul in jeopardy. And so, out of all of that, women are always complaining about what Peter was saying to them. But I'm telling you, he was harsher to men, and this was to save their lives for the time frame they were in. And you've got to put all that in context. The danger to Christians, the loss of the exemption from the Caesars on praying to Caesar, and you have these Nero and these others coming after Christians and killing them. Remember what Nero did. Nero blamed those fires on all those houses that he burned down so that he could take it over and build on it.
Yep.
He blamed that on the Christians. And so, now people had an enemy. Well, they were persecuting them, and this was simply Peter trying to tell women and men how to get along and survive this as Christians in order to, promote Christianity, draw others to them by their actions. And none of these words are bad, even today. None of them. But it certainly wasn't telling women that they needed to be property and sex slaves and all that. That is not what he's saying.
So, Professor,
there you go.
Professor,
Yes.
in terms of extrapolating that to the modern woman, who's encouraged to be a single mother, practicing lesbian lifestyle, criticized because she didn't have the abortion. That's how she became a single mother. How do we apply that to the modern day woman? The trials and tribulations of first century women in the Gospels.
Well, first off, we have to create an HBO pay-per-view special on how they got pregnant as lesbians, as single lesbians, because that doesn't tend to happen too often. But we're glorifying, out of political correctness, bad behavior. Pregnancy out of wedlock is bad behavior. Mm-hmm. And being a single mom is not something to glorify. It's something to say, man, I feel bad for you. I'm sorry. Empathy, maybe sympathy, but certainly not praise. Depending on the situation. Some single moms are single because their husband dies in combat, or they have a deadbeat husband who runs away or beats them and they have to run away. Okay, that's different. Mm-hmm. But these women that go out and get pregnant by choice, so they can get welfare checks, and then expect praise for the decision, baffles me. It baffles me. Mm-hmm. And raising kids as a single parent is incredibly difficult. It does a disservice to yourself. It does a disservice to your children. And there's a reason God set it up for a man and a woman to be together as the optimal way of raising children, so that both boys and girls can see how the different sexes operate and work and learn how to deal with them when they grow up to be adults. And one of the problems we have is there are too many women raising boys, and they don't know how to be men. And so when they get old enough to procreate, they do the same thing, and the cycle gets worse. Mm-hmm. And so there's nothing praiseworthy about that in my book. Did I answer your question? I may have got off.
No, you're absolutely right in that assertion. And unfortunately, we're in a culture that prides itself on ungodliness more so than godliness. And in addition to that, when we have Mother's Days that are coming up, and I know all the preachers know the scripture that they're going to look at for Mother's Day. It's Proverbs 31, because that's all about women. And it's really not. It's about the man and his role and function in the life of that woman. In terms of, it's alleged that it's Solomon's mother speaking to him directly. But it is a requirement for him to find the best of a woman. And it exemplifies what is the best in a woman that will exemplify him for being the best of a husband. And I just think that's a very powerful thing to talk about at this particular time of the year, because some of the biggest culprits against women happen to be on pulpits in America today, without the challenge of chastisement or encouragement of a changed behavior.
Yeah. Also, we have a problem with the definition of love. What the Bible means by that word is not what Disney created. You know, the Disney infatuation of love, you know, and tingly feelings, and you know, and infatuation is not the same kind of love that they use in the Bible when they talk about loving your neighbor, or when they talk about the love of God, you know, for us. It's a different kind of love, and it's you know, when Christ says that no one has a greater love than to lay down his life for another. You know,
yeah,
I really never understood that until you know, until I was in the military. Thought I did, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But the things you'll do for your fellow, you know, soldiers, airmen, whatever, it's different, and it's a different kind of love. And I have always believed that a proper marriage between a man and a wife that has Christ centered in it, that they will help each other go to heaven.
Yeah.
And that they need each other to go to heaven. And that is, you know, been one of my big fears because of how bad my marriage went, how un-Christ-centered it was, and what damage it has done to my soul and hers. That has always been a fear of mine, that, you know, that has torn us apart and moved us from God so far that God, you know, can't see us anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what sin does. Sin prevents God from being with you. It separates you. You know, I forget the word. Sin, I think the Hebrew word for sin is hamaraki or something like that, and it's a term that archers use, and it means to miss the mark.
Yes.
And so when you see the word sin, what it means is to miss the mark. It doesn't always mean something nefarious, you know, like he sinned, oh my gosh, what did he do to her, you know, blah, blah. But it means that you missed the mark, that you failed to live up to God's standards. And as men and women, that's what we're going to do, because only Jesus was able to do that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so we're going to be missing the mark. It's what we do after that's important to God. And you know, and how do you rebound? What do you do to fix it? What do you do to be better? Do you learn from your lessons? And by doing these things, you move back towards Christ. And I've always felt hell wasn't so much a place as it is a distance.
Yeah.
And by that I mean hell is so far away that you can't feel the effects of God, the love. And the more you hit the mark, then the closer you can get to God. And so heaven is the proximity of God, and hell is the absence. And so I think, did I answer your question, or did I go off on another tangent?
No.
I can't remember.
This is absolutely wonderful. Unfortunately, we're going to have to separate ourselves from our audience for this particular evening. But I love the fact that we can have these conversations on my show and on New Day Black and Red, which is fundamentally a program geared towards giving a Christian viewpoint as well as a constitutional viewpoint on current affairs. I'm going to encourage everyone tonight. Three things. Number one, the first thing is that you remember that one of the greatest scriptures ever given is John 3:16, because it was meant for each and every one of us. That God lived for us so that we wouldn't have to do it ourselves, because we couldn't. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomsoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. So for you who are living in the Middle East, begotten simply means that not created, but chosen by God. And Muhammad is not chosen by God nor a son of God. Secondly, coming up at 11 p.m. Eastern Time is BZ, Sir Mark the Bloviating Zeppelin, SHR Media. And so we want you to tune in to shrmedia.com. And then lastly, here's the last thing I want you to remember. God bless America. It's time for America to bless God. Professor, God bless you. I love you. We will see you next Thursday night on New Day Black and Red.
Yes, I'll be there, and I'm sure we'll be on next Tuesday.
Awesome. A return.
I'm coming back.
A return. Look out, folk. The professor's back. We'll be back. Love you. Good night and God bless.
Bye.
Bye.